Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you. I can
Okay.
see you. Oh God.
Okay. Goodness.
Okay. Cool.
Mercury retrograde seems to be following you a little bit.
Yeah, because it's the shadow until the 20th, and it's been clear that I'm not fully good until then. But it's been way better since like the main part of it has been over, I would say.
I have my chat open, Jeremy. So
I have my chat open too.
okay.
All right.
I would just say the only thing about your audio is you can hear your background noise a little bit more. That's all I would say that's different.
Oh,
But other than
you know
that,
what?
but don't worry about it. Like it's fine.
I'm gonna close this window though, because that would help. Except I don't know. Better?
Yeah.
A little bit. Cool.
But I mean, that would be the only thing that's different. It's almost like the difference of talking to someone on the phone and having them on speakerphone.
Yes, that makes sense. It's less direct and it's more just the room.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Well, is what it is.
Yeah.
Shall we? Oh, do we want to talk about like the power of the dollar today?
Sure. That actually could kind of tie into what I was. You know what? I honestly feel like I can't talk about this topic without Jeremy because I barely know about it, but he just was bringing it to our attention last night. But have you heard about the potential food shortages?
Yes, they've been talking about like I know there's been a lot of like shipping issues and shortages here, and there's
Have you heard
as of here.
about the random fires that keep happening?
Yeah, in the warehouses and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Jeremy just sent me a list of things that have happened since 1/11 of 21. And hold on, I'll
Okay.
just show you this screenshot because it's really small print and like it's fucking a laundry list. Like no. Like a list of like the
Holy
Constitution.
shit.
Like, yeah. So that's from I think I zoomed in and I think it says 1/11/21 was the first fire, and there's been documentation all the way up until the 13th of this month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we know what is like normal? Because that's a lot. But what's normal?
I don't know. I don't know, Jeremy, do you know that answer?
I'm just
How do we get that answer? Can you use like DuckDuckGo and do like annual like averages for like
commercial fires.
slaughterhouse, or yeah, you could keep it commercial fires just to like be broad. Or
But
like
that is very broad.
warehouse fires, like maybe that would be appropriate.
Mhm.
That can be like broad
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, like warehouse fires statistics.
No, I
Mm.
no, I know, but I'm just saying like I'm trying to think of like a broad search of like how to get like commercial type buildings have gone fire. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I understand there's different examples in that list, but like just like a rough estimate, like just because
Mhm. Yeah, like
like
average
people
is
can make a conspiracy
something.
theory out of anything, like literally. Like ever since George Floyd, and there was tons of people killed by police before George Floyd, but ever since George Floyd, people have been reading into every single thing that cops do, like they're a victim, and some people are, but at the end of the day, there's actually good cops out there, like there are, like maybe not in heavily populated areas as much as like smaller rural areas, like where we currently live, you know.
Mm. Mhm.
There's a lot of disconnect in a bigger city, I feel like. In a smaller city, like, I know, like, most of the cops in the town that I work in, like, personally, but I know of them, you know?
Mhm.
So it's a little bit harder to, like, beat the shit out of someone in the streets. Like,
Yeah, when you actually know who the
right.
person is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
I know
sometimes
that
I feel like when it sometimes like it could be like a small neighborhood cop kind of situation, but then what happens is like somebody's just not from there, and like then oh you're not
yeah,
familiar, so I'm gonna just automatically like assume the
yeah.
worst, you know.
Yeah. That's
So
what I was
like
like, as soon as I started saying it, I was like, there are plenty of other situations
mhm.
where it has happened in a rural, small town, like, area, so that's why I kinda,
No,
like,
but I know what you're
a
saying
little
though
bit there.
too. I know what you're saying though too because like I feel like there is definitely a push too for like more community policing so that you like so that there is some type of relationship. Like I feel like it is different when the cops have a relationship with the people that they're
Yeah,
supposedly serving instead of just
yeah,
being somebody who's seen as like somebody with a baton who's like a distant
right.
figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
totally.
I
Because
feel
like,
like
I
that
feel like
definitely
in
does make
the
a
yeah, totally. I feel like in the 1950s, there was, 1, less people, so, like, there's one
difference.
thing, and then at the end of the day, usually the cop that was, like, in the area patrolled the area that they lived in as well as reported
Mhm.
for duty, so it was, like,
Mhm.
almost like a captain neighborhood watch.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, like how in
So
those old movies, it's like the corner, the cop on the corner. He's just like, oh, Louis at it again over here. This guy over here. You know what I mean? And like, there's
yeah.
places where that definitely happens more, and like places like tends to be more like urban places where like that has barely been happening at all. Like for
Right.
a while
I'm
now.
not, even though I'm in an area where it is smaller, and I'm not any disillusioned to the fact that that's way more prominent than what I experience, because there's way
Mm.
more bigger areas around us that we travel to. And I know that there's plenty of people of color, of any race that have issues with cops around us, and there is a lot of crime not too far from us, but even
Mhm.
regardless, there are people that are completely innocent that have issues with police because of the crime that's in those areas. So I absolutely know that there's nothing different happening as far as some discrimination that may be occurring. It happens everywhere. But I feel like it's way harder to do it when the people is like a smaller ratio to every cop. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like that's a huge difference. But at the end of the day, you know, that shit's gonna happen everywhere because we're human and we're flawed. And there's some people that just have different opinions than the other of us that agree, you know?
Yep. Some people are have unconscious biases. Some people are just straight up like hate you and
Yeah.
hate people. You know, that's just some people's
Yeah.
reality,
Yeah.
and it's
Absolutely.
like, you know,
Yeah.
it's a weird
Totally.
world to be a part of when some shit like that goes down. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Cause I don't understand. I don't understand how that happens. Like I do and I don't. Like I guess I can always see both sides, and I can always understand that I wasn't there and I'm not that person, but at the same time, I just don't think I would ever do anything in that situation. Obviously, in a situation to save their own life, and in that situation, I kind of have a hard time siding with maybe someone that lost their life, because it's like, well, if it's their life or your life, what would you do? Because at the end of the
Mm,
day, anyone is going to do that, you know?
mhm.
But I don't know. I always think there's a better way, but I'm always the one that's like, isn't there a better way than war? Like,
I mean, yes, there is, and like cops do not need to be like there are like I think a big problem that is prominent throughout the entire country, and this is like studies show that there's like places where cops are essentially trained to react instead of responding. Like they are trained to escalate situations rather than de-escalate situations. So you being the cop, it's like you would think that you would be trained for these things, but cops are like constantly, like persistently, ubiquitously undertrained, and so like they're expected to respond to so many different types of situations, and at the end of the day we do ask a lot of people who are not
yeah,
trained properly, who are sometimes and often trained improperly, and are not like taught about unconscious bias before like going out on a field with a gun, and where all that we're conditioned to in society is to watch all these movies and all this media and all these things, and like not to be that person, but like all of these things are having these stereotypes played out again and again, and having this violence be extremely normalized. Like violence is way more
yeah.
normalized in our society than sex, which is like
Oh, yes, I was gonna say
life,
that.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. My aunt, like, my family, like, there is a definite, like, acceptance of violence in movies, like, that's a part of
Yes.
life, but sex, we're not allowed to
Makes
watch anything
everyone
like that.
uncomfortable.
And I'm
Yep.
like, "What do you mean? Like, you have 2 beautiful daughters, you have 3 kids, this is, like, a part of life, like, there's no way you
Mhm.
would have any of this if we didn't have sex." Like, yes, I understand that there was definitely some sort of, like objectified judgment about an age in which a person is ready for that particular part of life. I think that that's a fact, but
Sure.
isn't that the same for guns? Like, I think that there's a complete appropriate reason to have the option to have guns, because at the end of the day, as being people of this country, we are supposed to have the same power as our government. So, with that being said, you should be able to bear all the same arms they can. However, I think there still should be requirements and regulation and
Well, because we know the gas is wild. We know that they keep talking about supply chain things. All right, tell me though, around Black Friday, like excuse me, the day after Thanksgiving, um, what like I remember them saying during that whole time, like, and forget like if this is like not if this is like random, forgive me, but like
I think this
I
has been
remember.
random so far, so I don't know. Are we recording? Okay, great, awesome. Keep going. Tell me your randomness. We'll introduce ourselves in a second. Keep going.
So tell me, like, I just feel like around Thanksgiving, like there were all these like grocery shortages and all these things that I remember seeing in the news, or like like people would bring up in conversation about, oh, you heard about this, you heard about this shortage, blah blah blah, and then it's the day after Thanksgiving, and like somehow Walmart had to hire some extra special thing to get in all their like toys and shit for the day after Thanksgiving sales. So I'm like, okay, so Walmart can single handedly hire people to get private ships to come across and supposedly have no issue stocking their shelves for this day where people are buying absolute junk that we don't need to survive. And then somehow the shit that we actually need to survive, called food and other grocery items, we just are low in stock on the shelves because of supply chain issues.
Mm-hmm.
Please explain. Please explain that to me.
Well, and the only explanation I have that would make sense is that a Walmart as a fucking company has warehouses within our like within our country where they store fucking that trash. So some things are
Like
from
perishable
back
versus
stock.
non-perishable.
Right. Or like they buy so much of it when it goes on sale. So, like, hypothetically speaking, Instapot creates a new Instapot. Walmart buys so many of them and they sell some when they first launch, but they always keep some back so that then they have some to kind of
Right, like
like.
the back stock. Mm-hmm.
So, like, there is definitely some of that you can, contribute to back stock. But I completely agree with you. How can you still get that shipped everywhere? You have no problem with that, but we have problems shipping food everywhere. What? I'm sorry. It,
Yeah,
and it's
because I remember, I'm sorry, but I just remember there was an interview on TV with like some head person of Walmart, and they were saying how like all the extra things that they did to get the people shipping the extra things for this to be a successful like sales season for like the holiday season beginning on like the day after Thanksgiving, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, but somehow we can't get groceries on our shelves, but Walmart like is doing all this shit to get
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
that is blatant to me because like I'm sorry, but that is just like what?
Yeah,
It's
Mm-hmm.
blatant in your face. Like I don't give a shit about you.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I can allocate all these extra funds and resources to get these things for this day to get your absolute garbage that you don't need to survive. Once again, like, but I will not help out these
But we can
grocery
get your
people.
money.
Yeah,
But we can get
we
your
can get your
money.
money.
also right
Yeah.
now, so like
Mhm.
Walmart, so because of the COVID supply issues, and like Target and like a lot of the big department stores have been like accumulating inventory because they're afraid that this stuff's gonna happen again. So like
Mhm.
right now they're
Mhm.
like 3 times the normal like inventory like levels of stuff they have in warehouses than they usually are. So
People
like
less stock room.
it's gonna make all this inflation that's happening right now actually kind of like hit a little later on the retail shelves because they're still selling
Mm.
goods that they bought like in quarter 4 of last year, so they can still sell them at the prices they were able to acquire it at. But as they have to like restock that inventory over, then that's when you're really going to see inflation start to hit.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
thing
I
that's
never thought
bad
about
right
that
now,
before.
like gas is the first thing. That's always the first thing in a recession. Like that's gas goes up when inflation's going up,
Mhm.
and then everything trickles out from that. So like we're at the beginning of this. Like it's
Yeah, like I've
food hits second because that's a perishable good, so they're having to buy that on a constant like rotation. But like
right.
non-perishable goods that hasn't really like hit us yet, so that's going to be like the next wave of like inflation we see is in like the things that can sit on a shelf for a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that's the struggle in all of this is that everything that I can say to combat some of this stuff, it unfortunately can't be applied to people that live in major cities. Like there are farmers markets that come to major
Mhm.
cities that are from outside of the major cities.
Yeah.
However, that would be your only source. And if they cut that off, you're fucked because in our community, every single person, I could literally drive 5 minutes and a 5 minute radius from where I live, and I can find 18 to 20 different people that grow something. And I can
Mhm.
barter or I can give them money for it or something.
Mhm.
So, the big thing that I would say to combat food shortages is buying the things that are not going to perish in bulk, like rice, beans, pasta. You can buy those things in bulk. Maybe it's not your favorite brand, but girl, get over it. But, you know, as far as meat, veggies, those kind of things, if you can get those things at a farmer's market or from somebody that you know that grows it, or hell, if you can grow a few plants in your apartment, because I know I have, so if I have, you can. And those are the ways that you can kind of be somewhat self-sufficient and give yourself another option. But that still takes a lot of work. And I know there's plenty of people that work to the bone to make ends meet. So that's still asking a lot of people. But that's what we used to do. And that's the thing we need to go back to, because I think that's where we all got off. We all got off on this, oh, the grocery store has everything, but the grocery store has been unfortunately abused at this point by the sourcers, like where they're getting their merchandise that they're selling to you. And that is horrible. And it honestly is deplorable that we have gotten to this point as a country, because we do have such rich soil and we have all the capabilities to have everything we need here. And there's plenty of options to be self-sufficient. But there's so many other conspiracies that can link on to this. Like, you know, I recently listened to a podcast where Joe Rogan had, what was that gentleman's name, Jeremy? We both listened to it. I'm going to forget.
Barto Elmore, I think.
Yes, Barto Elmore. And he goes into where he talks about a lot of conspiracy theories that are behind Coca-Cola and Monsanto. And Monsanto has a pesticide that you spray it on your crops, but at certain temperatures, it evaporates and will literally spread to other surrounding areas. And they fucking knew that it was going to do this, because in their mind, they looked at it as
a blessing.
It was going to make those other farms have to come to them, because their seeds would be able to live up to those pesticides. So it's this sick, perverse fuckery that's happening, where they're sabotaging people that want to have organic farms, but they can't because their neighbor has fucking Monsanto products on their farms.
Like Coca-Cola gets like all the government deals that have been in effect since like the early 1900s with like importing cocoa leaves and that kind of thing. So they just have had this preferential treatment from the beginning, and it's never been revoked. So they can literally source things that other companies can't. Like,
oh yeah, and also might I add, the connection between Monsanto and Coca-Cola is back in the early 1900s when Monsanto was first starting off. Coca-Cola gave them everything they had. They literally paid them to create a caffeine substitute because they couldn't get enough caffeine and they needed more, so they made a synthetic form of it. And that is how Monsanto has everything they have, because Coca-Cola backs them basically.
Oh shit! I did not know that. I did not know that.
They used to pull the caffeine out of tea leaves, and they couldn't source enough tea to pull enough caffeine. Like,
whew. Well, I mean, we can't even talk about they used to literally just have Coke. Like,
and then coffee, they really decaf coffee is a thing because Coke was pulling caffeine out of coffee for Coke, and selling decaf coffee like if they was leftover. Like,
and then the reason, and that right there is where Monsanto came in, because with this extracting caffeine from tea leaves and extracting caffeine from coffee, there's still not enough decaf coffee being used. So they needed a synthetic form, and Monsanto was the one that created that. And they created it here. This is where my mind got fucking blown in this podcast. They created that from a fossil fuel, from some coal-like substance. That's how they made synthetic fucking caffeine.
Yo.
Yes.
The phosphorus mountains.
So you can literally look up, they have phosphorus mountains where they pour this liquid molten extracted
discard.
Yeah, so it's just
Mm-hmm.
these huge mountains that have been built in Idaho.
Yeah.
I think it was Idaho. Yeah, Idaho, where you can literally look up pictures of this. This was flat earth at one point, and they've literally created this just waste mountain.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So if I want to cosmically connect all of this right now,
Uh-huh.
this is
Please
what the
do.
Starseeds are trying to stop us from fucking doing. So
Yes.
that's what they're trying to be like. Yo, us literally talking here, getting pissed off. Yeah, that's why we're supposed to be here. We're supposed to cause a
Mission work,
ruckus. We're
baby.
supposed to be like, yo, pay a fucking attention to this shit. Because hello.
Because for so long, so many corporations have been able to operate under the radar because they just have this facade of the commercials and the image they paint to people, and then we get an emotional connection based on advertising, and like they're able to do so much evil shit. And like we don't even have to go to anything conspiracy, because the things that corporations have done and the things that this kind of laissez-faire capitalist mindset has done to our environment, to the people of this earth, it is truly a violation. It is a violation to every being on this planet.
Well, and then to, add on to that, most of these fucking major corporations are doing this shit in small town America, where these small towns, literally half of the population works for that company.
Yes.
So they are like, my community wouldn't exist without that. So you want us to go against this thing that pays us money so that we can feed our kids and have our livelihood?
I mean,
how are you gonna make someone that literally wouldn't have their house without that company? That's the fucking problem, is that these companies come into these small communities and make them dependent on them.
They create codependency on a
So you were saying
group
emotional
level.
attachment, and that's exactly it. It's not even necessarily
Mm-hmm.
marketing all the time, because marketing does work. Because hi, Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
But with this fossil fuel, like what we were just talking about, this is they've came into small communities and made themselves dependent on it. Again, you can't shame these people for being like, oh, I can make more working there than down at, Timmy's corner shop. All right, cool. I'm going to go do that. Now I can have a family and I can have a house and a car. And that's,
yes.
How are you going to shame these people for that? You can't.
Right. And that's history. Like when you learn American history, you realize that and when you think of the attitude of the day, because if you go back to the early 1900s, it's like this industrial boom that happened, and there's all these factories. It's like it was very much romanticized, but it was also very freaking dark. Like think of, it was the first time that many people for the first time had the opportunity to make money in that capacity, because it was like a good, exciting opportunity to work in the factory. It's this new kind of thing coming on. But then also that's when so many things about working conditions comes up, and that's when these issues about like how many hours in a work week, and we get unions, and we get these literary figures who are speaking truth about, that's when you get the first basically, like books that's talking about the freaking issues with the meat industry and all of those things. It's like kind of that's when that first wave of activism happened. And like I also kind of can connect all of that with like the kind of that earlier 1900s era. And like I think about like the beatniks, like that group of poets, and they were like kind of known for doing a lot of drugs, and they were known for like doing a lot of just like all right, this episode is going to be freaking terrible in this respect, because I'm just not remembering anybody's name.
No, it's
I'm
not.
not even.
What we will do is real quick attention here, PSA. If
Yes,
there's anything that we talk about, we will try to do our homework on this episode and make sure to link as many things that we can to
yes.
associate with what we're talking about. So this episode will be heavy on the links. So if
Mhm.
anything really hits your attention, we will try to have a link available for you, because I
Yes.
feel like this is a very passionate episode. And
Yes.
it's episode number 10. So I think it's a
10.
good episode to come in hot on. So it's fine.
Plus, it's
Fine.
literally the freaking hottest day of Brooklyn so far this year. It's like 90
Really?
degrees out here. Yeah, it's freaking hot. It was a
Oh
freaking
my
hot ass
gosh.
day.
We've already had
And
some 90-degree days and it was intense and it was humid. So we've struggled. So I feel you. I know.
yep, so we're
It
coming
was a
in
nice
hot
day
today.
here today. It was like
It was nice and breezy.
late 70s, like I don't know, I think it was like 78 at the
Oh,
max.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was great.
70
It was
to me
a great
is
day.
beautiful. Beautiful
Yeah.
spring.
But while we're paused here, how about we introduce ourselves? This is
I was just
Cosmic
gonna
Connect.
say,
Cosmic Connect
welcome.
with Frenchie and Blue. I'm introducing both of us, just taking it upon myself here.
Let's switch it up. Episode 10. It's a new cycle, baby.
And then obviously, I hope that Jeremy has his camera on when he's been talking. But Jeremy, our director, is in on this episode because we are talking about all kinds of things, as you have already heard. And we're going to just keep this going. We're just going to keep talking about the things that light us up real quick in this episode, I think. I think that's how we're going to roll with this.
Yes, and I think kind of before we go all the way back in, like, I definitely want to bring down just like a lot of, like, I want to actually literally kind of create a container around like this episode and everybody listening where we are speaking truth that is coming from the heart, that is coming from a good place, truths that need to be heard, but we are not fear mongering. You know, we like, I want to just, because many of these topics can be a little triggering to people, and it can put you in a state of panic. It can put you in a state of fear, and many things in this world are set up to put you in those states. When you watch the news nonstop, you will be put in a state of panic and fear and anxiety, and that's why we just sit on our couches all day, and yet we have more adrenaline coursing through our bodies than our ancestors who are encountering bears in the wild on a regular basis, because we're constantly being fed the flashing lights, flashing this media, this fear, this this. So it's a really important, in my opinion, to know what's going on, but it's also really important to keep your peace. And it's really important to know, like, when it's your edge of, like, know what, this is too fucking much, because the world and the shit that goes down in the world can just be too fucking much sometimes, you know? And so I just want to, like, kind of just wash this whole episode and this whole, like, container and everything with, like, just the full-bodied energies of, like, love and truth and just peace. And, like, you know, don't let yourself become more food for the matrix, you know, with your fear and with your anger and with these negative triggering emotions, because sometimes, like, that's exactly what the dark side kind of wants, is, like, for that reaction, for then you to kind of want to then bash against and cause more conflict. But, like, sometimes the most powerful act of rebellion that you can do is to keep yourself in love, to keep yourself in peace, to keep yourself with faith that things can change for the better by you being that change, rather than you going into panic mode and giving all your power away to the people feeding this narrative to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
That's
think
all I
that
want to say on that.
you said that eloquently. I think that was perfect. And I think my only little add-on there is I love to talk about these things. I love for people to get fired
Mhm.
up in communication about these things. I
Mhm.
absolutely do not want you to get fired up and take it to the streets. That's not what I want you to do. I'm not doing
Mhm.
that. I have peaceful protest in my life. I have done that, but I have never, taken it upon myself to do anything brass or anything out of my peaceful
Or anything
character. I
violent. Yes.
typically just want to, I really just want at the end of the day that if you've digested too much of daily like news today, maybe click off of this episode and take this in a different day. Because I feel like some things we have already talked about may have already lit you up. But I feel like at the end of the day, if anything, I want anyone to take from this is know that you have two major powers in this country: how you use your money and voting. Voting is important. If everybody voted, we would have a much more accurate electoral college, and that itself would speak volumes. If you just went to the polls, don't vote by what somebody told you, vote by what is important to you, and do literally an hour worth of research before you vote, and I guarantee you'll be able to go in there with some sort of a semblance of a thought process. If you do that, those two major things is going to speak volumes, and that's how your voice will be heard in this country. That's
Mhm.
probably the only thing I would add on to that, because I truly think that I get fired up, but I know how I can use my
Yes.
power, and I also
Mhm.
know how to ground
Yes.
myself, and I don't ever cause harm to others or to my community because I really do care. And that being silent speaks volumes sometimes.
Mm. Mm. Amen. Amen. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of preaching moments in this episode. It's like, oh shoot, you said it so well. I love it. And I will try to we will try to find as well. I believe there's a website too that helps you figure out, like, you can say how you feel about different topics and it can align you with either different, like, just to figure out like what might be your like political kind of party that you side with most. And like, this is like,
Mhm.
listen, I am the first one to say and to be like, I fucking understand the system is not perfect. Like, the system
It's not.
done fucked us a lot of times, plenty of times. Yet at the same time, if your vote did not matter, they would not be trying so hard to not let it count for what it
Yeah.
shows.
I think the thing that makes it the most broken system is that they preach the two-party system. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we have expanded past the two parties with all the different we have how many people, Jeremy, you want to look this up real quick? How many people do we have in our country right now? I feel like that number is so much exponential to when our forefathers were creating this country. And with that being considered, you know, I don't think two parties fit that very well. I think we have a lot of difference of opinion. And I
Mm,
think that as soon as we adapt the acceptance of third party opinions, I think that we will be in a much better place.
mm-hmm,
But the Democrats and the Republicans have won in the last 20 to 40 years, have switched sides multiple times. So they've literally gone from Democrat, Republican, views switched again in the last 40 years.
mm-hmm,
And that, to me, that looks more corrupt than anything, in my opinion. But, I'm not going to tell anyone how they should think about anything. Um, but I feel like there's probably some third parties that a lot of people align to, but feel subjected to having to
mm-hmm.
vote Republican or Democrat. And so then they
Yeah.
do stupid shit like, oh, I would rather have him than them, or
Mm-hmm.
this person's less evil than this person, or like, and I just feel like those options are just not how you should vote. If that's how you're voting, vote for somebody else.
It's, yeah, and it really is. it feels like a whole huge like money thing. It like capitalism has completely infiltrated the political system, and so the two parties with the most money, which also generally means the two parties with the most amount of corruption, are going to be the parties which
Yep.
can pay for the most outreach and advertisement, and therefore, you know, like, let's be extremely honest. Like, on one level, I believe that kind of, whether it's Democrat or Republican, it's like, because we have such a strong two-party system, it makes it so easy for them to fucking play us, and for people to get so one way or the other way and not be able to see a spectrum of different opinions from different parties, which are all considered valuable and valid options to be going into actual places of power in this country on larger scales. Like, what happens is we get so heated about these issues, which are painted on a party lens, where many of these things are not even political issues, let's be real. And like, it gets to this visceral place in people where, like, we're not voting based on how we actually feel or what we actually want to see happen in this country. We're voting based on visceral reactions to ways that we are being manipulated in media.
Yeah, and there's two things. One, the first thing that comes to my mind is one big thing we were talking about last night when we were at dinner with my aunt and uncle, was they didn't realize this, but you're exactly right. Capitalism is a huge contributing part of our electoral, like, just the campaigning, all of that. Like,
It's
I
scary.
guarantee you, if you haven't already, you've probably gotten something from a politician in your mail already. I just did in this week. So, with that being said, it takes up to 3 to 5% of a vote for a party to get recognition and to get nation like funding. So if you're just in an area where a third party is just like, that's not going to fucking happen, there's no way. There is a way, and it's just getting enough people to get recognition. And then the next year, you won't even have to try hard to get them to get recognition. They'll get the recognition. So I'll just be the person. I'll be honest. Like, I'm a libertarian, and I voted that way for the last three elections. And I'm pretty passionate about that. I think that it's a middle of the road party. They still believe in a lot of our constitutional rights, but they're a little more free on the social views, because why the fuck is that something we vote on? And they're a little bit more restrictive in the other parts of government, like the fiscal things and that kind of thing, which is, I think that we have been very liberal in that department, and where we've gotten ourselves as far as a country as a whole into a little bit of trouble money wise. So that's why I have aligned so well with that particular party. And with that being said, the last election, I forget how many states, but there was 3 to 5 states that actually finally have the national recognition, and they will have the national funding. So in this coming election, that particular party won't have to work as hard to just be on the fucking ballot. And that is a huge win. And then the other thing that I would like to add to that is, in Canada, which is a similar country to us as far as like they have a democracy to some degree, they actually have like 5 to 7 different parties that are just absolutely recognized, and no one thinks anything of it. So why in our country is it still so hung up on the two parties? That's just my perpetual mental question to the whole thing. Because like you said, I think that the two parties truly cause division and make people, it basically puts two people on two different sides. And have you ever watched sports? How does that work out? Like, I don't think that two people on opposing teams really particularly like each other. You know, obviously there's anecdotal people that are going to come out and be like, oh, I'm friends with someone of the okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that typically speaking, you're not buddies. You're not. You usually hate each other because you're not on the same side. So if sports can do that, what do you think politics do?
Yep. And if there's one thing that I really very fully like believe in, it's the power of unity and like us coming here to mend all these wounds in Mother Earth and all these areas of separation. And like oftentimes it feels like what is happening in this country is quite the opposite from that. And to hold space where you can listen to different opinions in even these areas where so many people feel so differently and feel so strongly in like many of these areas, like we've been kind of conditioned to do that, to like, oh, you know, if you can't believe the way that I believe, like if you can't see what I see, then like you're stupid. You know, you have no idea what's going on, or you just don't care about what's going on. And it's like when it's put in these stark contrasts between you're either going to believe this or you're either going to believe this, there's no real room for us to talk about nuanced things. So then somebody can win, but ultimately the same policies on all these other tiers of politics are going to happen based on what the people with a lot of money are wanting to happen, regardless of whether it's a Democrat or a Republican in office, you know? And oftentimes the policies that are being publicized of, oh, this president passed this thing, they did that. There's so many other things that are being signed into effect every single day that we don't even know about. You know what I mean? There's so many things happening under the table that, you know.
Yeah, totally. The other thing, not to mention my aunt and uncle so much, but the other thing that they were kind of making me giggle about last night is they were talking about how like gas prices are making, that's just a push for everyone to get electric. And I'm like, I think gas prices is just a distraction for a million other things that are happening. Like, I really don't think it's necessarily the push for electric, but I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit, because I'm not going to lie, I've been thinking about wanting an electric vehicle for the last year, like in the last year, even with when we had last summer, I think it was last summer where we had the random month of 99-cent gas, like that was, even then I was like, I still want electric. I just want to like skip this whole like gas
the whole thing.
In my mind, it's just like, it blows my mind that we've had so much change. I'm only 31. We've had so much change in my lifespan.
Yeah.
Why are we so resistant against using a fossil fuel? Like, I need somebody to really break this down for me. Like, we have the internet now. Like, we can do this. When I was a kid, if you would have told me that we were going to do this one day, I would have like, what? Like, it would have sounded like it was from a science fiction novel.
Like we in Star Trek right now, we're communicating from our spacecraft.
For real. Like, this is some Star Wars shit right here. Like, what's happening? And at the end of the day, we have this serious resistance to using solar, switching to electric, and doing these things. But why? Like,
I feel like it goes back to a certain
gasoline like lines our government's pockets. Is that literally it? And at that point, like, again, it comes down to like the resistance to change.
Right, but it's painted in a certain way where like it's the good, like so much of what Trump was going on is like that good old, like so many people who are like, oh, we're gonna go back to coal, and we're literally excited to go like backwards as far as our like use of these fuels and like fossil things versus like more green sources of energy. But why is that a political issue? But it becomes a political issue when, oh, if you believe this, then you have this mindset, and you're not about the average working American person anymore, because this is how we get our money here at home. And like, it's like once these things become tied to these things, which become very emotional places for people, it's harder to actually have a conversation where you're talking about the fact of this versus the fact of that, because the fact of anything is completely like not it's like people don't agree on what the truth is anymore on any level. Let's be real.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I forget. I feel like I'm like, Jeremy, pop in here. Okay, he popped in and he said this 8 minutes ago.
330
So
million.
we're at 3,300 million.
No, 330 million.
That would be 1,000 million. Yeah, so 3,300 million to 2 million. No.
2 million and
2.3 million now and 2 million in 1770. That can't be right.
Wait, what are we talking about? 330 million, yeah.
Yeah, so 330 million people that are here in our country now, and there was only 2 million in 1770.
That's a big difference.
One, I'm shocked that there was that many million people in 1770. I did not know there was that many people here. Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Well, yeah, because we started colonizing way back in like this from like the 15th, 16th century, and now we're all 17th. We're already in the 18th century by now, so we've had a few centuries of fucking shit up in the North American region.
People still be having babies, y'all. Don't you think that's enough people? When do we stop? Like, I guess that's my question. Random off topic question. When do we stop having babies? When, like 33 million? 33?
It's interesting because
for thinking that there's that many human beings in this country.
Well, and not even when, like, country is one thing, but, like, planet, like, if you look at the population of the planet, like, it is freaking nuts how many people live on this planet. And, like,
and director said we're actually below the replacement baby level right now. So, like, people aren't even having as many babies as they used to be.
Well, yeah, because of think of the baby boomer generation, like, so that's kind of what I feel like that's what that means is like the war happened and then everybody came home and had like many babies because they're like, oh my gosh, we survived the whole war.
Oh my God, we're alive. Thank God we're alive. Let's make life.
So it's interesting because then it is interesting because I wonder, like, if you want to go conspiracy, it's like when these big like earth traumatic events happen, such as the war and such as the pandemic, we saw with the pandemic how many there's like the whole wave of pandemic babies. So like after these kind of mass like killing, essentially mass depopulation events, there's then also this wave of like baby making that happens with the baby boomers and now with the pandemic, and like it's very interesting. But I guess but the baby boomers was so intense that's what that means is like we're still below replacement level because people now are not having as many babies as the boomers were. And I remember learning as well that like population wise in the world, like once countries get more economically like well off, that tends to be the trend, is that the more like first world versus third world from that like perspective of looking at like people and economics and dividing people in that sense, like countries who are more first world become more below the replacement baby level, which I did not know that was the technical term, but and then countries that are kind of considered third world countries, from like, to me it's a Western like fucked up perspective to even like think of people that way, but I this is just what
No,
has
yeah.
been constructed in our psyches, you know. But like third world countries, like tend to have like many more like babies per person, and like I also remember what's interesting is economically back in the day when we were like farmers, like more people were farmers and stuff. Like having a baby was an economic almost like gift
Choice.
to the family because that person is going to be working and bringing in income. Whereas like now when you get to like these more theoretical types of economies, it's like you have a baby and it's an economic strain on the family to like put all this money in to develop this baby. So it is very interesting to see how like populations shift and depending on the economics and depending on what's going on in the world, it affects the population.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can go as conspiracy theory in your own head with that information as you would like, but I will just leave that there.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of getting into the power of money. So let's talk about that. Like
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I feel like that is a huge thing with the whole power of money thing. Like in our country, we are at that point. If you don't feel like you're at that point, then you're probably like on the lower end of the spectrum. But that doesn't mean you have to stay there. It's all about using the advantages that you have. Like, you can literally do anything in this country there's plenty of public resources that can be a catapult to having the things you need. So with that being said, how you use your money is how you have your power in this country. And that is our government shows that every single day. So when you use your money, think about what you're supporting, and that's what you're wanting in this country. Like, so if you're spending your money at Target all the time, which don't get me wrong, like I love me some Target too, but if you're spending your money at Target, you're going to be able to look into all of the things that Target does, and if they represent everything that you want to represent, then they can keep contributing to Target, but you will probably align in views with smaller companies more than you know if you did your research. So there's definitely times where you don't get to have the instant gratification. And that is a whole other perspective of money. And I don't know if I want to necessarily touch that.
Because then you're going into morals and
That's
ethics
a
and
whole
all that
other
stuff.
thing. But I feel like, like for instance, for me personally, when this episode is recording, I haven't yet gone to the retreat yet. This will air after the retreat, but leading up to the retreat, I've had these moments where I'm like, oh my God, I want to buy a whole new wardrobe. I want to buy this pajama set and this robe set so I can like present in this. I don't even know. Like the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like I love the things I have. I'm actually trying to go to a minimalist lifestyle. And doing that, am I using the power of my money the way I want to? And I decided I could use this money and buy myself a new silky pajama set and a robe where I can like look all luxurious when I wake up. Or I could go get sugared and not have to shave my underarms, my bikini area, or my legs for a month. And I'm supporting, yes, it's a franchise, but I'm supporting a business that's in the community that I live in. That seems like a way better investment with my power of my money, because I'm one, giving some girls money that are trying to make a living, and two, the only other options I had for the way I like to shop with ethical source, sustainable products, I wouldn't have gotten it in time for the retreat. So I would have gotten something from Target. And I'm like, I don't think that's the way I want to use my Target money. Like, I would rather just buy the thing that's like oh, I need this quick little thing that's like whatever. you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that's just a really small first world example, but like I'm supporting somebody that's trying to pay their bills versus supporting a major company to buy products that maybe in a month from now I would have regretted buying because I bought
Mm-hmm.
them for that thing and I don't know if I really wanted them, you know?
Yes,
So,
I love that you bring that up. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so like, instant gratification is great, but like it's only good for that moment. Like you get it and you're like, yeah, I bought that thing. And then maybe you get a little bit of gratification when you use it. But I know for me, I wouldn't have got as much gratification from just getting the things from Target as I would if I really want those things in a month from now. I might order those things from a few companies that I found in my researching that are sustainable brands, that are ethically sourced, and they're organic materials and like all of these things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So also shopping like that, there's a lot of things that get bypassed because
Mm-hmm.
they don't talk about the effects of it,
Yes.
There's a lot of chemicals that are put in products that
Mm-hmm.
we put topically on our body as well as even in our garments, So like
Mm-hmm.
when you get into that kind of thing, it can get a little scary. And so, you might spend a little bit more money, but I won't have any effects that are lifelong, and
Mm-hmm.
gives me some sort of peace.
Yes. It like, well, we can talk about this for a long time, and I feel like one thing though that just came up to me very strong as we were speaking to is like, because I feel like everybody is kind of on a different stage of their journey with this kind of topic. I think that we're all kind of on different levels of awareness and different levels of putting that into practice in like sustainable ways in our life to like really incorporate these values. And like some people who are listening, you may have like you may never be thinking about like this kind of thing. You're like, okay, like always going with kind of like, I think most of us, like, let's be real, most of us have been made aware of these issues to at least some extent. Like we know how much the fast fashion industry contributes to like environmental disaster. We know, you know, we know that there's with like this globalism and expansion of factories from outside of the US to all like outsourcing these companies to where there's child labor issues, where there's issues with just like very unethical practices on any part of the supply chain, where most humans you would probably ever talk to would say, yeah, that's not cool. We don't really want that. But it's been so spoon fed to us that this to me is like one level of what it means to unplug from the matrix. And I'm
Yeah.
getting chills as I say this, but it really is kind of going in, and the first step is always just observe and get conscious of where you are at
Mhm.
without judgment, because it's very easy to judge and shame ourselves. But let's remember like
Yeah.
how fucked the world that we were conditioned into was, and how normalized these things are in society, and like give
Yeah.
yourself a break from like, the shame and guilt, because shame and guilt is not going to help anything. But let's take
Yeah.
a real honest look and
Right.
say like, okay, this is what I'm doing here, this is what I'm doing here, this is where this money is going. And like, I think I would love to talk today too about like, if you're someone who's wanting to become more conscious of these things, and you're wanting to kind of implement these practices of like, wow, where is the money I'm spending actually going, and what are the values that I personally feel? It's like, take a minute and think about that. Like,
Mhm.
wow, so I don't want to be supporting people who are like doing bad factory practices. I don't want chemicals in my stuff. It's the thing is, it gets crazy because this shit isn't
Yeah.
everywhere, and it's in everything, and it's almost impossible in certain times and in certain things to find like the perfect version of the product that you really want. And like, I think also like, sometimes like we all just have, I think, our different like levels of things that you get to decide for yourself what feels good to you to like start doing. But like, I definitely feel like the more we can implement these things, like the better everything overall is going to be. The better you are going to feel as a person. Because like, listen, my thing is like we have been so disconnected from Mother Earth. We have been so disconnected from ourselves that we don't realize what we're doing when we like buy something, when we, like we don't know all the energies that's associated with it. Like we don't know what the actual karmic effect is on our being because we have been blinded to that. And like the more that we heal ourselves and the more that we connect to Mother Earth and realize that we are Mother Earth, like our physical bodies are made up of the fabric of Mother Earth. Like our physical body is Earth. And so our practices and what we're spending our money on should also be good for Mother Earth because that is what's good for us.
Right.
And on an energetic level, you do feel it. It's crazy because you really do feel the difference when you just become more conscious of that and start kind of, and like to me too, it's like, listen to how you feel. How do you feel after spending on this versus that? How do you feel when you go like do this impulse buy and like end up regretting it? Like, when is it that you regret your purchases versus when you don't regret your purchases? Like, just ask these questions, become aware of it. Like, that's step one.
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's a huge part, I have learned because like I have to admit real quick, I used to be an Amazon addict, like straight up. If you were like, I wonder if there's this thing that exists. I'm like, hold on.
Amazon.
Here in 2 days. Like I was that person and I have a lot of cool shit, like I'm not gonna lie, but that being said, some of the things that I love the most are the things that were stalled gratification, or it was in the moment, like I got it on a trip and it made it more special. Like for instance, this top that I'm wearing, it's a little crop top.
I love it.
Sports bra thing, and I got it when I was in Colorado in January, and it was not the weather for this particular top. But I bought it, and at first I had a moment where I was like, this is a little expensive for what it is. I don't know if I want to get it. It has been one of my favorite little crop tops to throw on. And I have no regrets. Like it almost like every single time I wear it, it like makes it more valuable for me. And I can't say that particular sentiment has, transcended for the things that were instant gratification that I bought on Amazon. And maybe some of that was a practice of like fading away from that type of lifestyle. So like I will say that may be part of it, but I have found so much joy in the hunt sometimes. Like, I used to want to break my Amazon addiction. I used to use Amazon as a search engine. So I would like find something and then find the seller and find their personal website and buy that way.
Yes, I definitely
that was
done
another
that.
way I used Amazon. And now I don't even use it anymore. Like I don't even use
You're like,
it.
oh yeah, Google. That's how we used to online shop before Amazon
Right?
existed. Like we woof.
And honestly, I gotta be completely transparent. I feel like I use Instagram for particular things more than I use Google, depending on whether it's apparel or if it's a practical item. If it's a practical item, maybe I do search that on Google. But if it's like an apparel item, like I don't know, like leggings or whatever, like I would probably go for Instagram for that particular thing because I'm going to find some small business that I can support. And I truly find so much joy because in supporting a small business, because personally I am a small business. So when someone buys one of my BP's bars versus buying a dialed soap from a grocery store, like I fucking light up. So like I get so excited to send out my soaps. And if that is how I feel, I can't imagine somebody that has made their artwork into a piece of clothing and then selling that. Like, I feel like that is just huge. Like that has to be such a big like adrenaline boost to find out that you
Mm-hmm.
found an item. So I think that finding joy and in spending your money is also
Mm-hmm.
a value. Like, you know,
Yes.
I really don't think I got as much joy from buying something from Amazon as I have from buying something from an artist themselves.
Mm-hmm. No way. Like, listen, with all this quantum goddess stuff and just so many freaking goddesses that we know who are out here, like goddesses and like friends in the art community, in the music community, in the fashion industry, in the design industries, like you, like independent creatives, like I have spent so much money like these past like however long since all these launches have been happening, and I do not regret one fucking penny. And like as I'm making this purchase, I'm even like I'm thinking, and again, even in these last few years, it's like I'm like, oh, like my crystals and all these things. It's like I don't regret like putting extra money into any of these purchases because I love all of these things so much, and I know myself, and I know that this is like my shit that I love that I'm going to be spending my money on, and I'm not going to be regretting it. And the fact that it's these people that I know and I get to see
Yeah.
how handmade and homegrown like these works are, it's fucking incredible. Like spending your money on like I totally agree with you like that, like spending money on small businesses, on small artists, like is a big priority for me at this point, because like I have never regretted a purchase that I've gotten from somebody that I know who's like some kind of artist or craftsman, or like your soap. It's fucking amazing. And all right, we got to do this real quick. So your soaps, your freaking soaps, because when we're talking about being, when we're talking about things that you want to look for, that I want to look for in a product that I'm buying, I want to know that it's good for the environment. I want to know that what I'm putting on my body is not filled with the harsh chemicals. I want to know that it's not going to like be unhealthy for me in like insidious ways. And I want to know that the packaging is not going to be so much plastic that's going to be like out in these landfills. So tell us about your freaking soaps and how they just hit the freaking check box on every single, and not only soaps, but now we got foot soap. We got the foot soaps out. I know we mentioned that last episode, and we got what was it? Salt, foot salt, foot
Scrub.
the scrub.
So I have
Yes.
a B piece. I titled it the B piece bar, and the reason why I didn't call it a soap bar necessarily is because
Mhm.
I was using it as my face wash. Me and Jeremy were using it as our body wash in the shower, and I had sent some to Sadie and Juliet of Goddess Hangs because they're my bosses. So I sent them a bar for Christmas. And well, it wasn't Christmas. It was like a late Christmas, Valentine's Day. It was a mixed gift. I was like, this is just because I love you gift.
Yes.
And Sadie said that she loved it so much for shaving. And then after I sold
Mhm.
a few of the bars, another goddess had reached out and said that she loved to use it to clean her makeup brushes. So it is very much
Yes.
a purpose bar. It
Mhm.
is a honey base bar that has beeswax in it so it doesn't completely suds away in the first couple washes. That kind of keeps its shape, keeps it from getting slimy. I have oatmeal in there for moisture. Then there is not only lavender essential oil, but there's also lavender little bits, flower bits, and the lavender flower bits I actually personally picked last year and dried them myself. So it has a little bit of my own
Beautiful.
intentional magic in there. But the lavender is something that's very soothing for the skin, for all types of skin. Generally speaking, somebody that has sensitive skin, lavender will calm it down. So I think that that's where the versatility for that particular bar comes in, is because it's a pretty basic bar, honestly. And then the abundance foot scrub. I feel like you could probably use this as a body scrub. I just haven't personally tried it that way. It's on my list. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it before I get sugared next week. So I will report back and let you know what I think about it as a body scrub. But it is, I titled it the Abundance Bar because I put a ton of cinnamon in it. And the cinnamon was sticks that I ground personally myself. So I ground them all up and made them.
That's love.
And then it is an Epsom salt coconut oil, and then a melaleuca oil and a tea tree oil. And those are both really good for detoxifying the skin. And, there's lots of people that have all kinds of things to say about tea tree being detoxifying, as just putting it on your feet. It just pulls so much stuff out. And then in the revitalized foot soak, that one is also pretty, all of these products are very basic, but they're just kind of taking you back to like the granny tricks of the world where we all used to do basic ingredients. But the revitalized foot soak is an Epsom salt, and it's very potent. So I actually recommend you using just a teaspoon of it and then adding more Epsom salt if you really need more Epsom salt. But Epsom salt is really good for pain relief and just for the achy feet. And then there is rosemary, lemon, and peppermint. And the
that's beautiful.
It's a very wonderful blend. It's very cleansing, and I love it.
Refreshing. I just love that.
The soak and the scrub I've actually used for years in pedicure treatments at my salon, and kind of just don't know why I haven't sold those prior to this, like, honestly, because I've been using them forever. Every once in a while, like the current batch that I have at my salon, instead of it having dried oregano in the soak, I have green tea leaves in the one at the salon. But
that's pretty.
I didn't sell that one because I just used like a green tea like packet, and I wanted to try to grow green tea leaves maybe this year and then be able to have my own like version. So maybe down the road I will launch a green tea option, but for right now I kept it to the things that I already. So the foot soak is, I really wish I would have had enough of my own homegrown oregano, but I ended up having to buy some and I mixed it all in. So it's like half of my homegrown oregano and half of store-bought organic oregano.
Oregano is one of my favorite things. Like, I've always loved oregano, and so just even the fact that you include it, and even that half of it is homegrown oregano, like, get out.
Yeah, so they're all kind of like when I'm making the bee peace bar, I'm really am like muttering in like peaceful intentions. Like, I really hope that anyone that touches one of those bars really just feels the peace in it. And then with the abundance, like, I am literally like straight up making that a money spell when I'm making it. Like, money using this foot scrub. You're gonna put that abundance back in your feet that we take from it every fucking day and make that money. And then the revitalize is really just to kind of like put back in your life that we take out of it, because we really do take our feet for granted. Most of us do. So yeah. Thanks for giving me a moment to talk about my products. I love them. My heart goes into them though. Seriously, I love them more with all my heart.
The world needs to hear about these products, because, like, I'm about to buy everything.
I almost sent you a little sample, but literally I had just enough to make the I had, and I'm like, oh, I want to send her a little sample so bad. So,
but yeah, like, I got my BP's bars because I'm like, all right, this is my necessity because we gotta be clean out here. But I want to get my abundance scrub and my revitalized foot as like my extra like loving self care little products
I'll
to
have to make a
help out
little
my life.
discount code for you, Frenchie. I'll have to make a little
Oh,
discount.
shit!
I'll have to see if I can do that. I'll figure that out. Figure it out.
Yeah, but like, listen, like the world really needs to hear about this because truly, like, I haven't used the scrubs, but like, did you hear? Like, they are fused with intention. They are handmade. Like, tell me how that can compare to. And listen, like, I'm gonna say this too, like the price is so fucking reasonable for like
Yeah,
what we are getting, y'all.
I didn't even say the prices. So like
Like,
I kind of been like lingering on the edge of like telling prices because like at the end of the day, like I price them so that I'm able to pay for the product I used, but I want there to be affordable, eco-friendly, sustainable
mm-hmm.
products. Like that's like such
Ugh.
a important thing to me. I just want people to of all walks of life be able to buy these products because I think that sometimes sometimes there's a higher price tag on something that's good for the environment and it and I get it, but it
Mm-hmm.
also makes it harder to get and then it makes people buy the thing that hurts them. And
Yeah.
so it's very important to me for me to keep my prices in a price range that's digestible for anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
they're all angel numbers. And my BP SPAR is 555 because that is the
Mm-hmm.
angel number for change. And that's a big part of why we want peace in this fucking planet. So
Mm-hmm.
BP SPAR 555 makes sense. And then the abundance bar or abundance scrub is 888, which is the most
Woo.
abundant number you can
Abundant
find.
number. Mm-hmm.
And then revitalize is 777 because I feel like at the end of the day, when you're feeling revitalized, you're feeling lucky, you know? So
Yes, and that's
yeah.
like to me that's such a spiritual number too, and I feel like it's very symbolic. It's like how this silk is replenishing you physically and also like on the spiritual level. It's like you're getting your energy back. You're
Yeah.
cleansing yourself
Prosperity.
spiritually. Like, oof, it's like I and just listening to what's in it, like I feel uplifted. I feel like ah, that's how we
Yeah.
want to feel when we treating ourselves, y'all. You
Yeah, I
know.
feel like you could use revitalized soak to just like be like a little morning huff, like, oh, feel great. Okay, we're good.
Yes.
It's so strong, but it's such a good smell.
Oh
I
my
have to
gosh.
try that, honestly. I joke that you should do that, but I need to try that personally because I bet it would be
Yes.
like a morning, like, oh, wake up. Yes.
Yes, your modern day smelling soap. Get you out of any funk, you just catch a whiff of your revitalized. But we do not market it as such unofficially. Cosmic Connect does not recommend the sniffing or huffing of any of our products which we sell. Thank you very much.
We love aromatherapy, but don't take it too far. Come on, guys.
Come on,
Moderation.
come on, come on. The next person go out here. No, but seriously, like it really does all tie together, and like it it's crazy too how I feel like the products that you buy, it's like you're investing in that energy into yourself because you're interacting with all the energy which comes with any product which you're getting, and like again, we all have our like you have your things that you need to prioritize. This person has things that they need to prioritize. So like
Yeah.
go through and ask yourself like what feels the best. Like does it feel best to support local, to support organic, fair trade, like ideally we want all of these things, but just kind of like give us like take a few minutes. It really only takes a few minutes and like ask like
Yeah.
what are these things that's important to me, and like I swear just by thinking about that for a few minutes now, next time you're going to make a purchase, you're just gonna be slightly more redirected, and then the next time you're gonna make a purchase, you're gonna be slightly more redirected. And like
Yeah.
I believe, like small change leads to huge growth. You know,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
can
I was
make
just gonna say,
Mhm.
like, making small changes makes a bigger impact. So like, for instance, like
Mhm.
all of my, like, if I were to really tell everyone everything I do right now to be like, eco-friendly and all of the things, all the things that are good, it would be a lot. Okay.
Mhm.
So, but
Mhm.
with that being said, it was taking small steps
Mhm.
and then they compiled on each other. Like, oh, this brand does this, so now I can trust that brand. So then I can buy this, this, and this in that brand. And then,
Mhm.
so like, I think my biggest advice would be slow playing gratification. If you can slow
Mhm.
play gratification to some degree, you will be able to slowly build on a foundation in which you know what to buy and who to trust. And then before you know it, you are at, hypothetically speaking, since I started saying I was like this here, I'm not the highest, but you will eventually be at the same level I am at. But this has been 2-3 years in the making. So
Mhm.
I don't want anyone to like hear any of my opinions and get the wrong idea, because
Mhm.
it's been a constant change. And there's been tons when I'm like, I find out something about a company and I'm like, what? Like,
Mhm. We thought we were good.
like,
No.
and at that time you just have to take what you can with the information and do what you do with it. If it's
Mhm.
something that's hurting you, if you don't know that it's hurting you, but it is hurting you and you don't know it, stop using it. Like, one of the biggest things that changed me in this year was watching a documentary that was about the beauty world.
Mm.
And either Jeremy's going to know or he's not going to know, and I will put it in below. But I think it was something about Not So Pretty, maybe, and it was on HBO. And after watching that documentary, that is it. So Not So Pretty, I was absolutely almost in tears. Like, so we watched it at night. I woke up in the morning to go do my makeup, and some products that I have put so much trust in, like, I have literally loved them so much. One product line I've sold, which was an MLM company, but
Mhm.
looking at their products ingredient list, I'm like, I can't use these. These are carcinogenic products. And so I'm literally, the morning after watching this documentary, throwing away 30 plus products from my makeup and from my hair products. And I'm literally like crying because, like, I've been using these products for years. I've
Mhm.
sold these products. Like, what have I done to someone else? Like, and at the end of the day, I had to like ground myself and realize
Mhm.
I didn't do that to those
Yes,
people.
you
I
can't be
know
responsible.
what I was doing.
Mhm.
I can only be responsible for, now I have this information. I'm not going to
Mhm.
use these products going forward. And I'm not going to sell these products. I'm not going to endorse these products. I'm not going to encourage people to buy these products until they make a change. And that's literally all I can do. And that's sometimes the hardest and worst part about, you know,
Mhm.
really, really understanding the value of your dollar is some of these products were not the cheap products. These were vegan products,
Yeah.
but they had talc in them. And talc, you cannot make talc without asbestos being in it. It is just part of its natural, like the way it is
Makeup.
created. It is made,
Mhm.
the way it is found, there's asbestos in it. Asbestos is known to be carcinogenic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see a product that has talc in it, for the love of me, stop using it. Like, just stop using it. Like, find something else. I set my makeup now with freaking plain old cornstarch because I know that there are some products out there that don't have talc in it, but I haven't made it to doing the research and finding it out. but I know that corn
Mm-hmm.
syrup is a substitute for talc. So why can't I set my makeup with it? And guess what? I look fine. You can't tell.
You look fucking fabulous. Are you kidding me?
So just stuff like that is, this stuff, and for in particular with beauty stuff, that weighs really heavy on my heart because I'm part of the beauty industry, and
Mm-hmm.
it just breaks my heart because sometimes I don't know if the creators of these product lines even understand what the labs are putting in their products. They're looking at, oh, this is the material I want. Oh, this is how I want it to look. Oh, this is how I want it to feel. And that's how they're going with it. Not understanding the implications of not being aware of what's going in the product. So, just learning and growing and being responsible for your education is huge. That's really a
Yeah.
big part of knowing the power of your money.
Yep. And it's crazy too because again, this kind of does go back to unfortunately, I would love to say I rely on I can trust the government to be diligent about these things, but we cannot because it goes back to being to just a certain level which we of self sustaining self sustenance that we need to kind of get back to as people because the FDA does not vet the things that go in our food, the things that go in our bodies and on our bodies. There are many, many chemicals, and you can easily kind of just do a search engine check for this, and maybe we can try to find this and give you some resources as well. There are just many chemicals which the FDA will approve with no problem, which other countries in the world have banned for decades at this point. And it's in so many of our stuff. It's in so many of our products. And again, these are just the chemicals and additives and all of these things which are labeled, which we can see on a label. And what blows my mind too is these traces that they can find of certain other chemicals which are not not they don't have to report on all the things that ultimately we would want to be educated on. So I do just feel for so long in this country and in this world, but I want to say especially in this country because there is just something about American consumerism which is its own unique entity at this point, which has just gained an energy and momentum and life of its own, which can be really, 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 really hard to unplug from and start to do things a different way. But for way too long, I'm getting chills again. Way too long, these corporations have been able to do things because ignorance is bliss. Ignorance has been bliss for the American consumer since the beginning of time. And more things get uncovered and more things get uncovered. And then sometimes it feels like the more things get uncovered, the more things we find to uncover even deeper with the issues that exist within these major corporations. And then unfortunately, you're right. It's not only just the cheap fast fashion brands, because a lot of designer brands who are very expensive to buy also do incredibly unethical practices and also steal art from smaller designers and sell them for a lot of fucking money because they have the fucking name brand. So there's way too many levels of all of this stuff which we can talk about and which we can research further on. And I almost feel like we should definitely do a part 2 of this too, because I really feel like we just are scratching the surface to this really immense, really complex system which is controlling us.
Yeah, I totally agree. To give you the factoid, this isn't even necessarily exactly what you were looking for, but about 3,000 out of 10,000 chemicals on the FDA list of approved food additives have never been reviewed for safety by the FDA. This list includes several known carcinogenics. So, that's just saying that there's a rough estimate of ones that aren't even being regulated by the FDA. Now, there are approved chemicals by our FDA that are known carcinogenics, and they're approved for why reason we do not know, because we're not of that structure of human being. So I was trying to figure out the number because I feel like it gets spouted off all of the time between European and us, like our approval different, and it wasn't giving me a factoid right off the bat, but let me see if I can.
Yeah, that's okay. I think even just saying 3,000 out of the 5,000. Oh, and while you're looking at that, the
10,000.
reason why.
3,000 out of the 10,000.
Yes, that's what I
3,000
meant.
out of 10,000. Yeah.
Yes. So the reason why the FDA hasn't reviewed certain chemicals or certain products is because the FDA will not review a product for safety unless it has already killed somebody. Did you know that?
Right. Yeah, no, I did
So
know
the
that.
only reason why they will begin to start to investigate a product or like formulation of anything in this country, and listen, I don't have a great solution, because with so many of these things, I think it really kind of has to go back to self. You have to be able to rely on yourself and like trust that, you do the best that you can, and that will always be good enough, because again, we don't know so many things. We can do so much diligence, and yet there are many insidious ways that we are marketed to, and just things that there's loopholes of things they can leave out in certain things. So like, we do the best that we can, and I know that there's an app, which the name is for like not registering in my mind at the moment, but there's an app where it kind of rates different companies based on, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it rates
I
different
have
companies
a
based
few
on their like practices.
Yeah,
So
I have a few
that's
apps
something
on
we
my
can link.
phone. I have a few apps on my phone that say that I've had found from that documentary that I mentioned.
Oh yeah.
They mentioned 3 different apps, but one of them just never works. So I will check into these other 2, which one is Clearia, and then the other one is Healthy Living. I will look into those and see if they work. I have them on my phone right now, but I haven't really gotten into them too much. The other one that's I'll say fun, and I'm being very positive saying that. It's actually kind of sad, but there's another one called Cruelty Cutter, and Cruelty Cutter will tell you whether it's a cruelty-free item or not, if they have it in their database. So that's a really good app. You can just scan barcodes and you can find out if they're cruelty-free or not. I highly recommend that app just because I used it to eliminate a lot of products out of my life that I, didn't know that they were using animal testing or anything like that, until that app came in my life. And yeah, that's a good app to use. So that's for cruelty, though. That doesn't necessarily help you with the chemical stuff. So I will look into these other 2 apps that I have on my phone and see if they work out. But yeah, I think the bigger thing that is important to know is just understanding the contribution that you have by contributing to these different companies and stuff is how you have your power. And that's basically where we kind of got on this whole, platform here. So French is dealing with some technical difficulties. So we will be back shortly.
We had a man down in the headphone department, but we're back. But I
worries.
know that you were talking about the apps that I know you were giving. I could tell from, I was like, I know you're giving information, so let me just let you talk
Yeah.
as much
I
as you
just
can
said,
and get
all I
that
said was
information
I
out.
talked a little bit about the apps, and I was just saying that knowing some of these things just gives you back your power of your
Yes.
dog. Because
Yes.
that's what got us on this conversation. And, just to circle back, that's basically, knowing what the products that you're spending your money on is a huge way for you to be able to be abundant in your best intention way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you've heard me and Frenchie talk throughout this episode about what gives us joy spending our money on this small businesses, but that's not to negate that if whatever reason you have a store in your community that isn't necessarily everywhere, and you truly are like, I'm not trying to discredit any franchise out there that's doing good. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of companies out there that are not doing anything wrong, but I just feel like there's a lot of room, a wiggle room for bigger companies and bigger corporations to get away with a lot more things that you might
Mm-hmm.
not really know they're doing, and you wouldn't want to contribute to that. So
Right. Yes.
doing your research kind of slow plays the gratification of getting the item that you really want, but
Mm-hmm.
it really makes it all the worthwhile when you get it with a clear conscience.
Yeah, it really is like it's a huge shift in consciousness, which I kind of think we've been in the process of doing as a people. Like it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be coming up more and more and more, and I think it has been coming up more and more just in the last decade, just in the last 2 decades. I know in the 90s there were, there have been campaigns for all of these things, and there have been waves of us learning more and like digging deeper, and then there have also been waves of almost like a counterattack from the capitalists where it's basically just like they get smarter with how to advertise things. They can get more sneaky with how they hide the actual practices that are going on. So sometimes it kind of does feel like a war that is happening, and
and you almost can't even trust labels. Like I mean, like I think I might have mentioned this in one of us talking, but I don't know if it made it on a podcast, but like I think there's only like 7 GMO seeds in our entire country. There's only 7 different types of plants that can be GMO, and yet you will find non-GMO stamped on products that would never be GMO because there's no GMO seed for that particular thing. So, okay, cool. And and that right there is kind of like the disclaimer we wanted to make that you made in the beginning. That's fear mongering. That's scaring people into buying a product because it's not GMO, even though it was never GMO in the first place.
And it's a false advertisement. It's like, and there has been things that are really not so far from literally taking a box of sugar and saying sodium free. It's like, this thing is not supposed to have sodium in it, but it's, and there's it's a whole practice of green labeling things so it looks healthier because because it says organic or it says this word, but just because something says organic doesn't mean that regulation it's organic. There's some things you can look for. There's different stamps of different tests and levels of kind of different levels of how they kind of what is the freaking word?
They just have loopholes.
There's different standards that they have that you can get the USDA stamp, and that means that it has gone through some certain level of testing or looking at it. But then there's other brands that can just say it's organic, but it's not gonna legally, they can't put the stamp. So there's just different things like that to look out for too, where it's like, what is really in this versus what it's advertised, because something could advertise it's fat free, but it has 46 grams of sugar, and it's like, okay, but it's fat free, so people are gonna buy it and think that it's healthy, and it's
and that's a whole like that. Literally, like labeling as a whole is like a whole freaking topic that you could literally go on a million different tangents on, because that labels like that being a title can literally go for every single part of life. Because I completely agree with you. Like there is so many people that will get like fat free or sugar free, but
then it has chemicals in it that causes cancer
and synthetic sweetener in it that necessarily isn't naturally derived and causes grander problems down the road. But right now I need the fat free, and it's like, no, you just need to
Mm.
eat less of the full flavored version. Like,
Just like,
but
yeah,
yeah,
like it
that's a
just,
whole other topic, I
it
feel like.
really is, you know, but
Oh.
you know, to kind of cosmically connect all of this back, and then do we want to maybe end on just like a quick card pull?
I was just gonna say, yeah. Do you want to try to lighten this topic up a little bit with
Yeah,
the
let's,
card pool?
you know, and let's
Let's
get
keep
some
it
fairy wisdom,
tiny.
because who we know that that is very related to what we're talking about. But you know, I just wanted to really cosmically connect all that back a little bit and be like,
Yes,
you know,
please.
like, fuck, I just forgot how I was gonna cosmically connect all of it back. Emery, we're gonna have to give me 1 second.
Okay, well, a card fell out for me already, and
Oh
I kind of
shoot.
giggle
Uh-huh.
because this card, I feel like most people would have most kind things to say about this card, and I'm not going to say anything bad about it, but I feel like it's ironic because a lot of the things that we talked about, I feel like it's that moment when you get too close to it, and it's the sun. We
Ooh.
have gotten to a point where we've gotten too close to the sun,
Who is it? Icarus
and
who flew too close to the sun.
yes, it was Icarus. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's wild. That's super wild. I was literally just watching a podcast where they were talking about their
Oh.
new dog named Icarus. That's wild. Okay. Anyways, I feel like this card is, usually assembles, brighter times. Like, and I think that that's
Mm-hmm.
still true here. I think that everything that we've been trying to really bring out in this episode is,
Mm.
you know, I'm trying. Let me collect my thoughts here.
Oh shit.
You're really trying to bring the sun out. We're trying to bring the light in the darkness, and
Yes. Shine the light.
knowing the power of your dollar and your opinion, it fucking matters. And that's how the sun is going to shine through. If we really start to care about each other, this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Without this earth, we wouldn't be here, guys. None of us would be able to be here. We would not be able to breathe without the planet. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
instead of, always getting too close to the sun, let's remember where we're all at.
I love.
That's
Okay,
my,
listen. This
I
card.
know there's many interpretations of this, but that's how I feel this card is coming out today.
I love that, and I think that there's, yes, I think the sun is telling us many things, and it's, I like, to me, I'm bringing it back to also like there is light at the end of the tunnel, like this, you know what I mean? There is like,
Yeah.
I know this is maybe one of the most serious, heaviest episodes that we've ever done to date, and the happiest card of the deck is coming out, and this is what Starseeds are here to be, and this is what we are here to do, is to remind everyone on Earth. It's like it's okay to look at these things very seriously, and I want to go back to what I was going to cosmically connect all this back to as well, because oh my gosh, it is so related. You know, when we talk, there's some universal principles, and one of them, as you know, as we hear, is like, as above so below, as within so without. And so like that's just, that's just like the first part of the quote, but that's all we need to go to realize, like, when, all right, so when I first go into my spiritual awakening and my dark night of the soul, it's like I became aware of these concepts, of the concept of duality, in a way in which I had never fully been conscious of it before. And as I do my healing work on myself, and my spiritual work and my spiritual development, I'm constantly like reminded of, there are my shadow parts of myself, and there are these kind of like lower urges. There's my ego self, and then there's my higher self. There's my light side, there's my dark side, there's my masculine, there's my feminine. There, we are all these kind of paradoxes, and one of the biggest things that I'm realizing is, like, as I kind of am up leveling in my life, I'm up leveling in how in my consciousness, in my practices, in my, what I'm just doing here on earth. It's like, it's what it is an integration of this light side and this dark side, and where all things become conscious once again, and we're shining that light. We're doing that illumination work essentially, which the sun is that's exactly how you were describing the sun card, And what I think of as well, though, is like that's my personal journey, but that's also our journey as people, as humanity, as we are coming from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. We're going to have huge consciousness shifts, and we're going to have huge things coming up to purge, and huge issues that are in the earth are going to be made light for us to be able to deal with it. And now when things come up, it's like sometimes it can be devastating to have to look at this shit and at this pain, at these wounds that are coming up. But as you learn to work with it and to nurture that and to integrate that and give it so much love, and to then be able to shift things to a different perspective, because we have looked at these things and we have started to deal with these things, and we have made these internal shifts within ourselves, like be the change you wish to see in the world, that is kind of like what is having to happen, not just on an individual scale for me to develop personally, but this is happening for society. So these practices that have gone on for so long at various degrees, at various times in history, are going to be brought to the light for us to have to deal with, for us to have to shift. And the sun is coming through to say there is a positive ending, because it's so easy to look at this and say this is everything's going to shit, the world is fucked to a level beyond help. But the sun card would not be coming through if it was beyond a level of help. And the other thing that I think about is, again, the way that these corporations have been acting in a very similar way to how we act as humans when we are not integrated, is this mask, this social mask of this social facade. And that to me is kind of what these advertisements are, and these faces of the brand. And you'll have the model, and you'll have these people who are the faces of the brand, and these emotions that are evoked by an advertisement, versus when you look at what is happening in the factories where this product is actually being made, is modern day slavery. So like this mask, and sometimes the sun, sometimes the shadow side of the sun, is that spiritual bypassing, and like us as a society being okay with this because maybe it doesn't directly affect us, and maybe I just want to like get what's easy and convenient for me, versus like using the power of my dollar to combat these malpractices that don't align with how I want my world to be. Because the sun needs the moon. We need to acknowledge both sides of these things to be able to integrate. And like for so long it's been just the sun, it's been just the mask. But like we have to dig deeper as society and like bring those kind of more hidden aspects to light to ultimately be happy. The end.
Yeah. That's really good. The one thing that comes to my mind as I'm listening to you, and I'm just like, yeah, is, how was I going to say it? I was literally like trying to like recite it in my mind over and over again, so I wouldn't forget.
Okay.
Let me see if it comes to me. Go ahead.
You know what? I have my fairy wisdom card,
go ahead and tell your card.
that we just flipped. So it's number 3, Bad Dragon. And it's kind of coming up for me with this, because it's like,
it's so cute.
I know, but he doesn't. He looks like a little bit like, oh, like a little bit ashamed, a little bit like, oh no.
And I'm sorry, I did that thing. I didn't mean to.
But like, I think that this is a beautiful reminder of like, listen, like.
Oh, I remember. Go.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing I was going to say is that it's easy to like shed light down on someone and tell them how to do it, but don't forget that you walk the path once too.
Focus on you. Don't even look at us. You know what I mean?
I know. I'm saying like that's sometimes people's hang up of going down the path is somebody looked down on them and tried to shed this light of knowledge that they had, and they just weren't on that same level, and they're just like, I don't get it. Like, don't take anything that we're saying like we're talking from the mountaintops. I walked
No way.
the path of trying to figure this out, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out. I'm not perfect. I spend my money at major market stores. I do that too. But I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm learning the value of my dollar. And that's what I want you to learn is just get on your path, follow whatever sun you need to follow, the most conscious choices for yourself. But just remember that when someone's talking about their knowledge about something, they're just sharing their light. They're not talking down to you. They're just further along the process than you. So just keep pushing on. You're going to get there. You're going to get there.
And you know, like
mind when you were talking about the sun was what it was that I was trying to say.
Yes,
I was like,
no, and
you were explaining that it rejogged my memory. So go ahead.
Oh my goodness, I love it. And you know, I think it's so cool how much these readings are aligning with like what we're talking about. And like it really, because that so much aligns, like everything you just said, it's absolute facts. And it's like it really even connects to what we are saying about like let what you spend your money on bring you joy, like bring you the energy of the sun card, and not be bringing you like this poor ashamed dragon. And I think also like let's remember where like again we do the best that we can, like it doesn't hurt to shame ourselves and it doesn't hurt to shame each other based on where we're at, and like to remember that like all of this was put into place before any of us were born, and we were born into these systems. And so like honestly oftentimes it is these people in power and these bigger corporations almost shaming like the everyday person for their purchasing when they like really if this company could make one small change in policy that wouldn't affect people too much, and it couldn't affect the environment vastly more than someone changing their entire life. And not to say that your choices don't matter and your choices aren't important, because they are, but like you don't have to carry the entire weight and the entire of all of this shame and all this guilt that comes into all of these global issues and economic issues that are huge, you know.
I think you're totally right. I think the best thing is to do is be responsible for your part. So if you use your money as your power, you're taking back that. When these companies, they're using your power against you because you're buying their product. Supply and demand. I'm making the product, you're buying it. But if you do the research and you don't align with that purchase, then stop buying it, and then they don't win anymore. My biggest thing is don't expect the government to fix this problem. We fix the problem by our money. That's my biggest thing is we're not going to necessarily, well, and I don't want to say that we can't, because we could, but I don't, it freaks me out to think of a civil war. But I don't want to necessarily overthrow our government. I'm not trying to sit here and preach anarchy. I want to take our power back by using our money. Like, use what they've been using against us back against them. That's my thing. Like, that's the thing is don't expect the government to make regulations to stop these companies from making these products. Stop buying the products. If you know the products aren't good, don't contribute to the problem. And that is in a nutshell of just being like, know everything. But I'm not saying you need to know everything. But when you learn and apply that and do your best. Yes, do your best. That's the best you can do.
Yep, we all out here doing our best. And like, oh my gosh, you know what's crazy though too in this card is like, and like yes to everything you're saying, where it's like we you know, if enough people stop buying a product for a certain reason, they're going to change their policies. But as
Right.
long as people are, and like this little fairy guy up here literally has his eyes covered. He's literally shielding his eyes because I think that really and
He
again,
doesn't want
we
to see
can
the shame. He
we're
doesn't
and
want to
it's
see the shame.
how many people are willfully ignorant when it comes to many of these topics. And I
Oh, I just
we
got
all
the chills.
again we can only handle the level of things that we can handle, but I also feel like it's so easy to learn about these things. And again, it really does go back. I truly believe, like, focus on yourself. What are the things that I can do? Not what are these things that I can tell other people to. It's like
Yeah,
look
yeah, yeah,
look
yeah, yeah, yeah.
inward, look inward, look at yourself. Like, with all things, honestly, with all things that I ever
All
talk about
things.
or preach, I just want you to look at you and do you. And I can only share the things that I can look at in myself and change in myself. And like, with that said, I feel like, and again, this is me as well. So neither of us are out here being like, we have perfectly been spending every dollar. Like, no,
No.
we are all in this
Now,
together of this
now,
process.
I am up for making a challenge for the audience. If
Woo.
you are a perfect person and you just do everything right and you think you know the secret to just life itself in a nutshell, please drop me your answer below. I would love to know your secret because I'm not in any way, shape, or form the pinnacle of human beings. But I am here to learn from one. So if you
Yes.
claim that you are that, I want to meet you. Let's be friends. I want to have your pinnacle of humanness rub off on me.
Nah, but like, yes, in all seriousness, it's just like we do the best that we can, and we need to be able to talk about these things.
Yes.
And I, again, just speaking for myself to kind of just continue, it's like, how many times do I know that this is not what I want to be purchasing, or I know that this company is maybe not the best company, but then we put on those blinders. And again, this comes to like life in to me, this comes back to life in the Matrix. I don't know if it's possible to be 100% diligent 100% of the time. Like, we do our best, and again, we're on a projection of trying to do more this way than more that way. And like, we have to get rid of shaming ourselves for not being perfect and only being able to do this or that, because then how many people are criticized for trying to make a difference, but then they're like, oh, but you're not perfect and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. So then it's like, look, many brands are brands that I would buy from, but they're not perfect. I can't know exactly where every single thing they ever have is sourced from, but I feel like this one is better than that one. And often as consumers, that's all we can do is a better choice, and then next time there will be a better choice, and more companies are being created that we can support that can be an even better choice, that have even better practices. Like, all of this is a process, and it will have massive change in the world just by making small changes. But we're not going to get anywhere by constantly we're not going to get anywhere by shaming ourselves or allowing ourselves to be shamed.
And we're not going to get anywhere if we only looking at the sunlight always.
We're not. And we're not going to be helping ourselves by, again, like, putting our blinders on and being willfully ignorant to these things and being like, everything is fine. But we can also find so much joy in the purchases that we do make that are aligned with what we want to be doing. And like, oh my gosh, we're going to put a whole list of small businesses and our friends that we love to support, because
this episode, I will do my best to get this just wherever you can watch it, Frenchie, so we can both do our due diligence to make sure we link as much information as we can in this, because this is probably, definitely, like you said earlier, this is one of our heaviest episodes. Why not come in with the 10th episode hot?
Bam.
But I feel like we've been talking about Starseeds, and we've been talking about them wanting to make change in our planet. And I feel like with
is
talking about the star seeds that we've talked about. We've talked about the ones we align with, and I think that this is something that our starseed families would be proud of us putting out. Just because I think
Agreed.
it's being, everyone has their own compass. For me, I try to do eco-friendly, sustainable, organic. Those are my 3 focuses. With that being said, I'm not perfect. One of the other things I like to sprinkle in there is I really try to go plastic free. But again, that one is really hard to do.
So
I mean, majority of condiments are in plastic containers. It's freaking annoying. Sorry, that's just a personal sense right there. That's
Let's manifest that for the world. Wait, but can we just also, because, and again, we can maybe talk about this in another episode too, but like when we're learning about manifestation and we're learning about these spiritual things, how many people are applying your manifestations to also include a more like green earth in the we include these things in your manifestations. Like, this is the magic that you're weaving. It's not just like it is, and you deserve every single thing that you want in this earth. Like, you know, all the nice things. We want all the nice things for you. We want to live it. We want to live wonderfully. We want to live in luxury, and we also want to live in beautiful communities. We want to live in a place, in a world which has harmony. We want to live in a world that is free from these wounds, from these like deceptions, from these fucked up economic practices. We want to live in a world that's free from slavery. So let's start incorporating that in what we're manifesting in our visions for the future. Like, it's important. It's important to remind yourself what you're putting into yourself, like as far as physically, what you're physically purchasing, but also what you're mentally like absorbing, because the energy that you put in is going to affect your manifestations that come out. And hopefully Cosmic Connect can be a media source for you to kind of like bring yourself back to that vibe, bring yourself back to like some sort of truth that really resonates with you. If so, you're our freaking dream viewer, because you fuck with what we're talking about. And like, to me, that's what this is, our work. Again, like, this is what Starseeds, we talk about these galactic things, and that's so fun and so interesting, but really it comes down to what are we doing on Earth, because we as Starseeds are here on mission. Like, life is beautiful, life is wonderful. We are, part of our mission is to experience the joy and the wonders and the love of the 5th dimension, and it's also here to do some freaking shit and to change things up, because that is not how Earth has been, and we have to be the change. We are the change that we are seated here to illuminate and change and be. Period.
I think we just need to end on that. Mic drop this. Frenchie, incredible. That's amazing. Yes, everything she just said. Hallelujah. Praise the aliens above. Holy, my God.
Holy Pleiadian.
I love you all. That was incredible. Like, I'm on fire. I'm ready to make a change. Let's do it. Okay, stay at home. Make your change slowly. Slow play gratification. We don't need to go right in the streets. Just love everyone. Lead with love.
Lead with love. Lead with love.
I love you all.
Be the change. Be the love. Make sure you stay connected, because we love you so much. And together is how we start really amping up the shit that we're here to do. So like, let's come together. You can find us at cosmicconnect.frenchyblue on Instagram. You can find us at cosmicconnect.frenchyblue@gmail.com if you want to write into us. Anything you want to write in.
Cosmic Connect the podcast on TikTok.
Cosmic Connect the podcast on the TikToks. We love it.
TikToks. And then I'm at blue.river on Instagram.
Yes, and I'm at Frenchie V. That's Frenchie XVII on all the things, on all the platforms. We'll have plenty of wonderful links for you in these descriptions.
And
Ah.
Jeremy was a little bit in our beginning intro. So Jeremy's at Jeremy Crackcorn. If he wants to show his face and say anything, he's more than welcome to. Go for it. Got anything else you'd like to add on there, Jeremy?
Not really.
I love that he gets quiet. He's very passionate about all of these things too, but he's gonna be shy boy over here.
I feel like in future episodes, I feel like Jeremy will gradually like start popping out more and more and be like,
yes.
All the research I do during the week, I need to like start writing down. So I just have like a notepad here with highlight.
Oh my gosh! If Jeremy came in hot with the research,
Ooh.
he would make us a whole different people.
oh my gosh, it's like fact check me, please.
Well, we love you all,
and
we are so thankful for all of you listening. And let us know what you think.
We will talk soon. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
Peace.